Siddharth,
Yeah.
I guess we can start now.
All right. It's 8:07.
Okay.
We will start. Okay. So welcome everybody. I hope all of you are doing fine. And sorry to all those people who missed this session in the morning. Okay. So let's get started. Okay. So what is Python programming? Before we get started, I would like to first ask you, what do you think Python programming is? Like, what are the key points of Python which make it different from other languages? Would anybody like to answer me?
Madam, please.
Can you repeat that, please?
What did you ask, please?
Uh, what is Python programming? Like, what makes Python different from other programming languages?
It is a free and open source.
Yep, correct. Lots of programming languages are open source. What's different about it? Okay, all right. So Python is an interpreted language, which means that you don't have to compile it to run it. Like if you're programming in C, first you have to compile it, in which it checks for error, and then you have to run it. Also in Python, Python is extremely easy to write. Like the syntax of Python is much simpler than, let's say, of Java or of C++. That's why if you're writing in Python, you will be able to code much faster as compared to other languages. The trade-off here is that the execution time of Python is relatively slower than most of the other languages. But the difference here is that if you save many hours programming in Python, but you only have to spend, say, 0.1 second more time during execution, I would say that's a fair trade-off in 99% of the cases. Okay, so you guys must know that there are two different versions of Python right now, which are Python 2 and Python 3. If you must have seen that Python 2.7 was the last version of Python 2, but the latest version of Python 3 is Python 3.9.5. Those of you who installed Python after Parvez sent the mail yesterday, you must have the latest version, which is Python 3.9.5. So the difference between these two is that Python 2.7 has been deprecated, which means that there will be no new libraries, there will be no new development there. Like it's basically dead. Python 2 is dead. And you must be thinking that if we are already on Python 3.9.5, which means that Python 4 must be just around the corner, maybe in a few months or maybe next year. And if you're thinking that, then you're absolutely correct. But I think you should still learn Python 3. And that's because the developers of Python have said that there was a massive jump between Python 3 and Python 2. But the jump between Python 3 and Python 4 won't be near as drastic. It will be very streamlined. It will be very easy. And if you learn Python 3, you will be very easily able to code in Python 4. Like the difference will be very minuscule. Okay, so before you start programming, you need an IDE, which is also known as a code editor. So let's see what different code editors can do. First, we have Visual Studio Code. So Visual Studio Code was made by Microsoft. It's very easy to install. It's very easy to set up. And there are tons of packages and libraries within Visual Studio Code that you can install that can make your code more colorful, more prettier, and more organized. Similarly, in Atom and Visual Studio Code are extremely similar. If you install Atom, the packages in Visual Studio Code and Atom are mostly overlapping, so you can use either of them, and your experience will be very similar. For these classes, we are going to be using PyCharm. The reason we are using PyCharm is that it's very straightforward. You just download it, install it, and you're good to go. You don't need to set up anything. Such as in the above two examples, you will first have to install Python separately, and then you will have to set the environment variables and all that. So not to say that it's difficult, but just that it adds a couple of steps which might be intimidating for a beginner. Then we get to idle. So idle is an IDE which gets pre-bundled with Python. Like when you install Python from python.org, you will automatically get idle within it. You cannot write huge amounts of code in idle, like it's not recommended. But what idle is useful for is that you can check the syntax. You can check the logic, like if you want to check the logic of a loop, or if you want to check, let's say if something is a keyword, then idle is very useful. You can very quickly and very cleanly, you can see if the code you're progressing with is correct or not. Then we get to a very special IDE, which is Jupyter Notebook. So what's special about Jupyter Notebook is that you can execute one code snippet at a time. For example, let's say you are building a machine learning model. So for that, first you have to import all the machine learning artificial intelligence libraries, such as TensorFlow, such as Keras, such as Matplotlib, and then you have to import your data. And this data can be huge. Like it can be in hundreds of gigabytes. Then you have to clean your data, and then you have to train your model. So these are 4 steps in training the machine learning model. Let's say, but what happens that you're happy with every step you did, but you're not happy with training your machine learning model. Let's say you missed a hyperparameter, or you didn't set an attribute correctly. So what Jupyter helps you with is that you don't need to execute the entire code again. You can just take the portion of the code which you think was incorrect, which you didn't like, and then you can repeatedly execute that code, and you wouldn't have to execute the entire file again. Because let's say you're cleaning your data. Like if you repeatedly clean your data, in the end, you will be left with nothing because you have cleaned everything. Okay, then we get to Google Colab. So Google Colab is built on top of Jupyter Notebook. The difference between these two is that the execution of Google Colab happens on the servers of Google. The benefit of this is that you get much exponentially higher computational power. Let's say you are trained, let's say it takes you 3 or 4 hours to take a machine learning model in Jupyter Notebook. That same model will train in just a few minutes in Google Colab. That's because Google servers are more powerful than, let's say, your laptop or your computer. Okay, does anybody have any questions up till this point? You can also write your questions in the chat box if you want. Nobody? So shall I proceed?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I hope all of you have downloaded and installed PyCharm or any other Python IDE you're comfortable with already. Is there somebody who hasn't done that yet? Because if you haven't, I can show you right now where you can go and get it set up. All right, it seems like everybody has it set up already. Okay, so let's get started with running our code in Python. Okay, let's say I've opened PyCharm here. This is the code from the morning class. For you, I will make a, let's say I will make a new project. Okay, and I will name this project, let's say, Python programming. And then I create this new project. It will take some time to create a virtual environment. In case you don't know what a virtual environment is, you don't need to worry about it. It's a little bit of an advanced topic, and we will teach you what it is later when the time comes. So everybody's following me, right? Open up your PyCharm so that you can code alongside. All right. So when you open your PyCharm, you will see some code like this. If you don't understand this, don't worry about it. You can just go ahead, select it all, and you can erase it. So let's get started with our code. Let me just, okay, everybody can see my screen, right? Okay, so do I need to increase the font? Would you prefer if I increase the font, or is it okay?
Yeah, you can.
So increase the phone a little bit.
All right. Let me see.
Use CTRL plus. I guess that will increase the font.
Hmm?
Use CTRL then plus.
Okay. Let's see. But it doesn't work. Let me just give this to 25. All right. So let us write our first Python program. In this case, as it always is, we will write print. We will write two strong brackets, and then we will write hello world. And then we run this program. And as you can see, there's hello world right here. So what's happening here is that we are using the print statement. The print statement is used to output anything, like anything at all. You can use the print statement to output it. In this case, we have this text called hello world inside the print function, and that's why hello world gets printed here. And let me just comment this out so that we can move ahead. All right. Then we get to variables. Okay, you almost already know what variables are. They're the same thing as you might have learned in mathematics, which is a variable is a symbol that is used to denote a value. So let's see how it functions. Okay? I will take a variable named x, and then I will give it a value of 10. And then if I print the variable x, I will output the variable x, and then I run it, and then I get the value, which is 10. All right. Now let's say I take another variable. I take the variable y is equal to 20. And if I print y with no surprises to anybody, the output will be 20. All right, that's very simple. Now let's say I want to change the value of my variable y. I can do it using y is equal to 20. I can do it like maybe, I can do it again. I can write y is equal to 30, but I can also do it in another way. Let's say if I type y is equal to x, and then I print y, what do you think the output will be? Will it be 20 or will it be 10?
Siddharth, there is
Yep.
someone saying that please go a bit slower.
All right, I will go slowly. Okay, does anybody have any answers here? I have x is equal to 10, y is equal to 20, and then I give the y the value which is equal to that of x. And then I print y, will the output be 20 or will it be 10?
It will be 10 for
20.
Okay, let's see what the output is. I print this out and it is 10.
Yeah.
So the reason it is 10 is that first I have a variable y. First I give it the value of 20. But then I change the value. Then I change the value to that of x. So y is equal to x and x is equal to 10, which means y is equal to 10. That's why when we print y, we get 10. All right, let me just comment this out. Up till here, we were only using numbers for variables. Like x and y we have taken, we have always used it to give it a value of numbers, but you don't need to do that. We can also use it to give it a value of a string. A string is just a text basically. Like you send text to, like if you send a text on WhatsApp to somebody or you email somebody, and if you email something, that the contents of those messages are called strings. Let's say I take a variable a, then I write double quotes, and inside my double quotes I write something like welcome to Sharda University. Okay, and then I print a, and when I execute this, I will print the value which is inside of a, in this case, which is welcome to Sharda University. Okay, let's see what's next. All right, let's get back to a compiler. So as you must have seen that Up till now, we are only naming our variables names such as X or Y or A. You must be thinking that is there any other name we can give our, like, can we name our variable something like a full word? Like these are 3 words, but can we name our variable this? And if you think you can, then you're absolutely correct. You can name your variable an entire word or even a group of words, as long as there isn't any space between them. Like I run this, and a program still runs successfully. But there are some words that you cannot use. For example, if I take a variable name of 5a, and then I give it a value of, let's say, 15. What if I try to run this program right now? What do you think the output will be?
To print an error, sir.
Can you repeat that, please?
It will give an error output.
Sorry, I'm sorry. There's an echo from your side. I cannot understand you.
It will give error. It will give error. The output will
Yep,
be error.
yep, right. There will be an error. Let's just run this first. All right. We get a syntax error, invalid syntax. The reason there's an error is because the name of a variable cannot start with a number. There are 3 rules basically for this. The name of a variable cannot start with a number, which we have already seen. So let's comment this out. Then the next rule is that you cannot contain a hyphen between them. Let's say if I type a hyphen a is equal to 25. If I try to run this, I'll get a similar error. So that I cannot include operator symbols in between the name of a variable. So this is the second rule. And the third rule is that I cannot include space in the name of a variable. Let's say I have a variable name called ABCD, and I give it a value of 45. This will run, but if I enter a space here, then it will give me an error because there's a space here. Let's just keep the space here for now. So these are the 3 rules for naming a variable. Like you must be thinking, if you are following all 3 of these rules, is it possible to name your variable anything else? And the answer is no. There are some special keywords also. There are some special keywords which are also called Python keywords, which you cannot use to name your variable. You can see the list of all those words here on the screen. The reason you cannot use these words is because each of these words already has a meaning for Python. For example, let's take the word true. The true is a Boolean value. So when you write the word true, Python already knows that it means something. It means that there's a true condition there. If I take another keyword, for let's say I take the keyword if, Python already knows that if it comes across the keyword of if, Python already knows that it has to look for a condition. Like the following code should be for an if condition in the code. That's why you cannot use these words as the names of a variable. Okay, everybody can take a screenshot so that you have the list of the words. All right. Getting back to our code editor, let's try this out for ourselves.
If I can come again, let me take screenshots, please.
All right.
You don't need to take the screenshot. We'll share the PPT after the end of the class.
Okay, sir.
Right. So if I take the keyword of true and I assign it the value of 10, and then if I try to run it, I will again get the error, and the error is that I cannot assign a value to this variable because this variable already exists. I mean, this variable already has some meaning for Python. And this is true for everything else. So that if I try to name the variable if, and run this, then also I get a syntax error. There is one workaround for this. Like for example, last time we tried true. If you take this t and instead of capital T, you write a small t, then it will not give you an error. Like if I run this, there is no error here. But the problem is that this is not a good way to name your variables. For example, true with a small t is the keyword for many other languages. Like Python uses true with a capital T, but other languages use it with a small t. That's why if you name your variables like this, it can be very confusing for other people to read your code. And it can also be confusing for you to read your code, for you to understand code you might have written a long time ago. That's why you name your variables in a better way, so that you and everybody else can also remember it. Okay, so does anybody have any questions till now?
Siddharth, there's a question in the chat box. Rohan is asking starting problem. I guess
Let me check.
just address that one.
Starting, can you be specific which problem you're talking about? Rohan, can you write it again, or you can unmute yourself? I don't think he's here. Okay, so now we get to comments. Let's see what comments are. Okay, up till now you have seen that I have been commenting out all the lines of the code I've written here. So what? Let's see what a comment is. So you see the symbol right here, a hashtag. It's the same hashtag you use on Instagram. So what a hashtag does is that if there's a line in your program and that line starts with a hashtag, Python instinctively knows to ignore that line. Like since I have a hashtag right here, Python will just ignore this line. Let me show you. Like if I write a weird thing here.
Rohan didn't understand the whole program.
Yeah, if there's any question up till now for anything, you can ask me.
Yes, put a question in the chat box. He didn't understand the whole program. I guess the first part.
Let me see. We haven't written a complete program yet. We have only used single sentence programs up till now.
I think he's asking for the first program, x equals to y, where you have.
Okay. Okay, and yes, Python is a case-sensitive language. Okay, let's go back to this portion. I will just remove all the comments. All right. So what's happening here is that we take a variable x, and then we give it a value of 10. All right. Then we take another value, another variable y, and we give it a value of 20. So x is equal to 10 and y is equal to 20. But in the third line, which in this case is the fifth line, we are changing the value of y. Like before this line, in this line, the value of y is 20, but in the next line, we are changing the value. And what are we changing the value to? We're changing the value of y to be equal to the value of x. And in this case, x is equal to 10, which means that y also is equal to 10. And if we print y, which means that if we print out the value of y, then we will get the output of 10 because y is equal to x and x is equal to 10. Let me just remove this first so that we don't get an error. And when I print this, we get a 10. Okay, so did you understand this? All right. So let's get back to comments. We were doing comments. Okay, so if I type, let's say I type some random gibberish here. When I try to run this, Python will just throw me an error that this weird word is not identified. Like Python doesn't know what this is because this isn't anything. But if I type a hashtag here, you can see that the entire line went gray. This is because there's a hashtag here, Python knows that anything which comes after the hashtag has to be ignored. Like Python doesn't have to deal with it, it just ignores it and it moves on to the next line. Similarly, putting a hashtag is not the only way of commenting. For example, let's say I type 6. I have, how many do I have here? Okay, hold on. I will remove this first. Okay, let me just erase everything up till this point. All right, I have 3 quotes on the top and 3 quotes in the bottom. And if I write anything here, and then I try to run it, you can see the Python throws no error. That's because this is another way to comment. that instead of using hashtag, you can just use 3 double quotes on the top, 3 double quotes on the bottom, and whatever you write in the middle is also ignored by Python. So the reason you might have to do this is, let's say you are writing a huge amount of code. Let's say you are writing 500, 600, or even let's say thousands of lines of code. So, and you are writing it in a team. Let's say you are a team of 10 people and you're all contributing to the same project. In that case, no one else is going to sit and read your entire code to understand what it does. So in that case, what you have to do is that you write a small portion of your code, and then inside the comment, you explain what your code does. So if you write a comment after, let's say, after every function, then a single line of comment works. Like that's perfectly fine. But let's say you are writing a comment after writing 100 lines of code. To explain that, you might need more than one line of comments. That's why we have this triple quotes comments. Here you can write entire paragraph, you can write entire pages to explain what you have been doing, and Python will just ignore it. Python will not count it as a part of a program. Okay, does anybody have any questions about comments?
No.
All right then. Let me just check the chat box. Okay, there's nothing here. Okay, now we get to escape sequences. Let's see what they are. Let's take the variable which we took some time ago, and for this time we will change the string a little bit. I will type welcome to peer-to-peer learning. So escape sequences are some special characters, some special functions which you can use to edit your string. We will take a look at some of them. If you don't understand it fully, don't worry about it. We will come back to it in the future. But for now, we will just take a look at some of them. For example, I will take let's say /n. Okay, as you can see, the entire text is green, but this /n is blue. That means Python already knows that there's something different happening here. Okay, so what /n here does is that whatever comes before /n, okay, let me select this. Whatever comes before /n will be in one line, and whatever comes after /n will be printed in the next line. Okay, let's see how this works. Okay, I have to print this. Print A. All right, as you can see, whatever was before /n gets printed in the first line. Then there's a line break, and whatever's after /n gets printed in the next line. Okay, this is easy enough. Okay, let's take a look at another escape sequence. Let's take a look at /r. If I type /r here, so what /r does is that whatever comes before it, which is welcome to, which means then Python will ignore this part of the string. All right, and it will consider whatever is after it. So let's print and see how this functions. As you can see, welcome to has disappeared here. Like we just don't have it here. This is because /r, what /r does is that whatever comes before it, it gets erased. It doesn't get printed. Okay, and now let's take a look at one final escape sequence, which is /t. All right, we will type /t, and let's see what /t does. Okay, I printed this. As you can see, there is some extra space here. We have 2 blank spaces here. So what /t does?
Can we put any variable at the place of t?
What, can you repeat it?
Can we put any variable at the space of t?
Yes, you can put /t anywhere in the string. You can even put it here.
Okay.
So what's happening here is that, let me just rerun this. All right. So you see this extra space right here. What /t does is it's for adding a tab. Let's see if I put my cursor right here and then I press the tab key. You can see there's a lots of spaces added here. Like there are 1, 2, and 3 spaces added here when I press the tab button. So this is what /t does. It just adds extra spacing between the string. It's very useful when you are trying to separate a string into a clean looking output. Let me just comment this out once again. And let's move on to the data types. Okay, this is one of the most important part of Python, or rather most important parts of programming. So I want you all to listen carefully. Okay, so there are different types of data in Python. Let's get started with integer. As we have already seen in the beginning, as you've already seen in, wait a second. Okay, never mind, that's gone. Okay, as we've already seen in the beginning of our class, when we were declaring variables such as x is equal to 10 or x is equal to 20 or y is equal to 20, those were numbers, right? And those were integer numbers, such as they were positive integer number. And there are also negative integer numbers, of course, but there's a difference. Let's say you don't want to take numbers such as 1, 2, 3 or 20 or 30. You want to take a number which has a decimal place. In that case, you cannot use the integer data type. In that case, you will have to use the float data type. So float is also a number, just like integer. A float is also a number. But the difference here is that a float contains a decimal point. Are you all getting me? A float is just like a number, just like an integer, but it's a decimal point. It has a decimal point, which means you can write numbers like 5.5 or 12.0013 or 15.7. Like numbers like these will be called float instead of integer. Then there's a complex number. You all must have studied complex number in maths also, which is denoted by the letter I. You know, letter I which stands for iota. And iota, what is iota? Iota is under root of -1. It's a complex number. So, but the difference in that and in Python is that although we use the letter I to denote complex number, in Python we use the letter J. If you don't understand the application of it or you don't understand the syntax of it, you don't need to worry about it, because complex number is rarely ever used in programming except for very specific cases. If you come across those cases, you can contact us and we will help you out if you don't understand them. Now let's get on to, okay, so these three data types were all numeric data types. Like these three were all numbers. Integers were positive and negative integer. Float was decimal numbers, and complex number was complex numbers. It is iota and everything. Okay, now let's get on to something different, which we call string. So a string is basically text. Like that's the simplest way to understand it. Any text of, let's say you have a text of, let's say, even if you are writing A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, that's some text, right? You can send that text to anybody. That is what we call a string. A string can be as short as a single character, and a string can also be as long as an entire page or an entire paragraph or even an entire book. Even that can be called a string. Then we get to list. The thing about list is that a list is not a data type in itself. A list can contain other data types. Like inside a list, you can put integers, you can put float, you can put strings, and you can even put other list inside a list. And we will see how the syntax or how the code of list works later in this class. Then we have tuple. Tuple is extremely similar to list. Like even in tuple, you can store multiple data types inside of a tuple. You can store a tuple inside of a tuple. The difference between a tuple and a list is that once you have declared a list, you can change it. You can modify a list, you can change a list, you can perform operations on the list, and Python will take it very easily. But if you're trying, but you cannot change a tuple. And what do I mean you cannot change a tuple? That's a difference between an immutable data type and a mutable data type. Don't worry about it. We will get to what mutable and immutable data types are. We will get to them later when we study these three data types in detail in the next class. Okay, then we get to the simplest data type of all, which is Boolean, like which is in the center here. So a Boolean is either true or it's either false. I think that's the simplest way to describe it. Like it's as simple as that. It's a data type which is either true or it's either false. Like it's used to check condition. Like if a condition occurs, then you can change a Boolean value to true so that your program will know that that condition has already occurred if the Boolean is true. Then we get to dictionary. Okay, I hope everybody at least once in their life, everybody must have read a dictionary. So what a dictionary is that inside a dictionary, inside a normal dictionary, there is a word and then there's a definition of that word. Similarly, in Python, the dictionary in Python works in the same way. But instead of word and a definition, we use different terminology, which is a key and a value. Like your word is a key and your definition is a value. Okay, there can be multiple key and value pairs inside the dictionary, and we will see how they function later in this class only. Okay, and then we get to set. A set is a very interesting data type. A set is like a list or it's like a tuple. The difference is that the elements of a set do not repeat. What I mean by they do not repeat is that, let's say if in a list you have 3 elements and all 3 of those elements are same, like inside a list you have 3 elements which are 1, 1 and 1. And then you put the list inside a set, or you convert the list into a set. You will just have the one element, like all the repetition is eliminated. Okay, does anybody have any questions up till now? Should I explain something else again?
No, sir.
All right, should I move on? No, all right.
Yes.
Okay, let's just first see what negative integers are. Okay, as in the beginning we were using x is equal to 10. This time we will just change it and we will take x is equal to negative 10. And then we print x. And when we run this code, we will get the output of negative 10. Like, it's very simple. Like that's just it. Like x has a value of negative 10. That's why when we print it, we get negative 10 as the output. Okay, and then let's get to float. Okay, this one's a little interesting. Let me comment this out. Float, I will take the variable name a is equal to 12.005. I can take any number of decimal places after the decimal. Then if I print a, then I will get whatever it is inside here. Now let's say I want to change this. Let's just take the example which is given in the presentation. I take a is equal to 2.55 E4. Okay, and now I print a. So here, as you can see, 2.55 E4 means that 2.55 multiplied by 10 raised to the power 4. Okay, so now if I try to print a, what do you think the answer would be? What will get printed out here?
It will print 5500. It will,
yes.
it will print the value of 2.55 to the power of 10.
Yes, but what's that number? What is 2.55 10 to the power 4? Your voice cut out in the end there. I couldn't hear you. Guys, you can calculate it. 2.55 multiplied by 10 to the power 4. What will be the answer?
25,500.
Yep, it will be 25500. But if I print it, I will not get exactly that. I will get 25500.0. Let's just see first how it gets printed out. Yep, it's 25,500.0. The reason we have a 0.0 here is that the variable a is a float. It's a float, and a float always has a decimal point, right? That's the definition of a float. It has a decimal. That's why even though we have a very round number here, even then we get the output in a decimal form. Now you must be thinking, how do I know that? Like here we printed it out, and we get a decimal. So we know that a is a float. But what if I don't want to print out the value of a? In that case, how do I check if a is a float or if it's not? In that case, I will use the type function. So instead of printing a, I will print the type of A. Okay. First we take, there is A. First we use the type function for A. Okay, I hope you're all understanding this. We use the type function on A, and then we are printing it. So what happens here is that the data type of A gets printed out. So let's see what happens when we try to print this. Okay, so the output is class float. Like you can see float right here, which means that this variable A has a data type of float. Okay, we can check this even for an integer. Let's say we change our value of A into -10. And then if I print this, you can see it changes into class int, which is an integer. Right, and if I change this to some text, and then I print it, and the output is class string, which means that this variable, the data type of this variable is now a string. Okay, so let's get going. Let's get on to complex data type. Okay, so I will comment this out, and we will take some other variable. Let's take the variable name ABC. Okay, so we have the variable of ABC, and we will give the value which is the value given in the presentation, which will be is equal to -2 plus 3j. And if we print this variable, we get the same output as our input here, like what we have written, what we have assigned the value for this variable. That is our output. But you might be thinking, that is j the only variable here? What if we replace j with I? Do you think this will execute now, or will there be an error? You can answer me. Will this throw an error, or will it execute? Okay, never mind. If I try to run this, it will throw an error. That's because this letter I, it's not the correct character for a complex number. In Python, complex number are denoted with the character j, and that's what we use to denote it. If you're unable to understand it, don't worry about it. Complex number are rarely ever used, and this focus on float and the integer, they are much more useful than complex numbers. Okay, now we get to the sequence type, the sequence data types. Okay, we will take another variable ABCD, and we will give it the value of a string. And let's just take the same string which we took some time ago. Let's say welcome to Python programming. Okay, so to declare the string here, let me just also include a print function so we know that if our code is working correctly or not. Okay, so to declare the string here, I have used double quotes. You see, there's a double quote here, and there's a double quote here. But I don't need to use double quotes. I can also use single quotes here and here. To print this, the program functions perfectly. There's no error. And I don't just need to use one single quote. I can also use 3 single quotes here and 3 single quotes here. And when I try to run this, the program still functions perfectly. Therefore, you know that there's multiple way of declaring a string. You don't always need to do double quotes or single quotes. Like there are 3 ways, or even more than 3 ways if you go deeper into it, and all of them work perfectly. Okay, let me comment this out. Now let's move on to lists. List is probably the most useful data type in Python. We will take list1 as a variable. Then we will denote a list using square brackets. Okay, square brackets are important because that's what, if you use round brackets, you will end up with a tuple and it will cause all kinds of problems. So let's take a list, and inside the list we will put an element 1. Then we will separate it with a comma, and then we will put an element 2. This comma is important because this comma tells that this 1 and this 2, there are 2 different kinds of variables. There are 2 different elements. They are in the same variable called list1, but there are 2 different elements. So let's just add a few more elements, and I will print list1. Okay, so print this. I get this list here perfectly. Okay, what happens? 1, 2, 3, and 4 are all numbers. What happens if I add a string here? If I add hello here? If I print this, do you think there will be an error, or will this also execute perfectly?
That would be not error, it will print.
What? Can you repeat that, please?
It will no error, it will print.
Yep, you're correct. It will print, and it will print including the string we have added in the end. Okay, let me show you a clean little trick right here. Instead of printing list1, what if I write star print list1? So what this does is, let's see what it does. I print this, and you can see we have the same list printed here, but all the brackets and all the commas and all the quotation marks are gone. It's not very useful. It's just a clean little trick you can use to make your output look a little more cleaner, and that's about it for this trick. Okay, let's see what the other examples are. Okay, and a list can contain another list inside of it. What do I mean by this? I have a list here, and I will take another set of square brackets. Like I have a square brackets towards the end, and I have another square bracket here, and inside this, I can put another bunch of elements. I can write 5, 6, and 7. And outside of this, I can write, let's say, 0.5. What's happening here is that this is the first element, this is the second element, this is the third, fourth, this is the fifth element, and this entire list is the sixth element. So there's a list inside of a list. Okay, and if we go ahead and print this, you can see there's no error here. A list can contain a list. This is also called a multi-dimensional list. Okay, if you're wondering about the functions of list, like how do we modify it, how do we change it, all this function will be covered in the future classes. For now, we are just covering the surface level of the data types. Okay, now we get to tuple. As I said before, a tuple is extremely similar to that of a list. So I will name the tuple, tuple1 is equal to, and instead of square brackets, here I will type round brackets. Okay, and inside round brackets, I can type such as 1, and then I can separate it with the comma. I can write 2. Then I can take the numbers 1 and 2. Then I can print the tuple 1, because this is my first tuple. That's I named it tuple 1. And if I print this, you can see that tuple 1 gets printed perfectly with round brackets. Since tuple contains round brackets, that's why it got printed like that. But you might be thinking, how do I know if this is actually a tuple? Maybe it's just a list. Like, how do I know the difference? In that case, we will do what we did before, and we will use the type function. We will check, we will print out the type of the variable, which is tuple 1. If I print this, I will get my output as a class of tuple. Let me comment this out. Okay. Okay, are there any questions here?
Where did you put the asterisk? You did not to print out the list with the square bracket?
Okay, you mean, okay, let's try here. I mean, the star trick for tuple. Am I getting your question correctly? Like, what if we print star tuple 1? Is that what you mean?
Okay, if you put star list, it will print without
the square brackets, right?
It will print without the square bracket.
Yeah. Do you want me? Okay, I will show you this portion again. And let me comment this out first, and let's see here. Okay, we have this list. If I print this out,
yes,
it will contain square brackets. Okay, here's a square bracket, here's a square bracket, okay, and it also has quotation marks here and here, and it also has commas after every element. If I type a star here, okay, here's a star,
yes, sir,
and then I print this, you can see all the square brackets and all the commas have disappeared. But the square brackets of this list hasn't disappeared, okay, because this star is working on list 1. while this is a list inside of a list. So we will have to use another type of syntax to remove these brackets.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So let's see if anything happens if we use the star function for a tuple. If we run this, as you can see, same thing happened. The round brackets and the quotation marks and the commas disappeared when we use the star. Okay, let's comment this out. I want you all to, if you have your code editors open, try this out a little. We will give it 2 or 3 minutes and then we will get back to you. I want you all to try this out code, play around with it, try different syntax, try to print a list and a tuple together. Let's see if this works. Okay, it's 8:57. We will resume at 9 o'clock. Okay, there are some questions in the chat box. Let's take them. Okay, so 2.73823. Okay, this is a float. A complex number has the letter J, like the character J inside of it. It's a float, it's not a complex number. All right, so let's get moving again, starting with the presentation. Okay, here we come back to the simplest data type, which is a Boolean. So as I said before, a Boolean is either true or it's either false. That's just the gist of it. Let me just show you how it works in a program so that you can understand it better. Let's say I take a variable A and I give it a value of true. Then I print A, then I will get the output of true. Here you might be thinking that like this is just useless. I give it a value of true and then I print it. What use is it? So this is used for checking conditions. Let's say you want another part of your code to be executed only when a different part of your code has already been executed before. In that case, we use Booleans a lot. Like it's very useful while checking conditions, while checking the status of your programs, etc. Similarly, if I change this to false, I will get the output as false. Let me also comment this out. Okay, now we get to set. Okay, this is very interesting. Okay, you are going to see something very interesting right here. So pay attention. Let's go back to what we studied in list. We take a list. We may take a variable list1. Then we write square brackets. And inside square brackets, we will take multiple variables.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
For the Boolean. Yeah, for the Boolean, For the boolean, must it start with a capital letter T
Yes,
and
yes.
capital letter S?
In Python, you have
Okay.
to declare a boolean using a capital letter, true and false. But in other languages, you can
Okay,
use
sir.
a small letter. Like this is the only
Okay.
difference. In most of the other languages, you will use a small letter, but in Python, you have to capitalize it. Okay. All right. So let's make a list. We will make a list of, let's say, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, and 70. Okay, this is my list, and I have a set which let's take the name of my set is set1, and I will use the function of set. I will use the set function, and I will type list1 here. So what's happening here is that here I declare list1. Here I'm taking my list1 and converting it to a set. And as you might already know that a set doesn't repeat its element. But here inside the list, many of the elements are repeating. Like 1 is repeating 3 times, 2 is repeating 4 times, 3 is repeating 2 times. So what happens when I print set1? What do you think will get printed out? Will the
So 1,
elements?
2, 3, and 17. So
Uh,
repetition नहीं होगा.
Yep, you're
Because
exactly right.
a set is unique, it will print only one out of the.
Yep,
To print
you're
only.
all right.
Yeah.
If I print this 1, 2, 3, and 70, all the repetitions are eliminated. Like the set function is very useful. Like if you have redundant data, let's say you're working in a company and some customer fill the registration over and over. In that case, you can just convert the data into a set, and all of the repetitions will be removed. Let me just comment this out, and we are moving on to dictionary. All right. So as we studied before that in dictionary we have a word, and then we have the definition of that word.
Siddharth,
Yep.
Shreyansh is asking, could you please explain the print function in detail?
The print function. How do you okay? So let's take. I have this function print, and then in Python the print function are always denoted with round brackets, and whatever is inside the round bracket gets printed out. Normally, if I write anything here, let's say if I write x, then what Python will do is that it will go look for a variable. It will look, okay, pay attention here. It will look for a variable named x. It will go back to the program and it will check if there's any variable named x. And then it will take the value of that variable and it will print out. Printing means displaying. If I print x, which means that here in my console, it will display out the value of the value of the variable. But let's say I don't want to display the value. I want to display the letter x itself. In that case, instead of printing x, I can add quotation marks. I can add quotation marks here and here. So what happens if I do this? That instead of the value of x, the letter x gets printed. And it's not just for variables or for strings. Inside the print function, you can write anything, like whatever entity exists in your program. You can write a print function for it. All right.
Siddharth, can you please explain how we can print string and the value of variable in a same print function?
Okay, you mean let's say I have this variable. Let's first declare the variable x is equal to, that's it. So you has no data connection. Okay, my Google Assistant launched itself. Okay, so I have this variable x is equal to 10. So you're asking me that you want to print the value and the letter both inside one function, right?
Yes.
Okay, so what will happen here is that I already have this string here. I will write plus, and I will write x. Okay, and when I try to run this, it throws an error. Do you know why it threw an error? Do you have any guesses why it throws an error here?
Yes, because the order X is not in parentheses.
No, it's not because of parentheses. It's because this X is a text. It's a character. And this X is a number. You can only add a number to a number. You cannot add a number to a character, right? That doesn't make sense. You can only add similar units. For example, if let's take a variable y here. Okay, give me a second. Okay, I take a variable y here, and here I replace it with y. What will happen if I print this? Will I get 10 and 10 separately, or will I get 20?
Is that a quote on top?
Yeah, this is x is equal to 10, y is also equal to 10, and I'm printing y plus x. What will be the output here?
30.
20.
20.
Okay. Let's see, we will execute this. And you're right, the output is 20. So what's happening here is that whatever we have inside the parentheses, it gets executed first, which means y plus x gets executed first, and then we print it out, which means 10 plus 10 gets calculated, which is 20, and then we print out the 20. But similarly, let's see what if I add quotation marks here. Okay, not here. I add quotation marks here, and I add them here. Will I still get an output of 20, or will I get something else? Okay, what will be the output in this case?
X plus Y.
No, the output will not be x, it will be yx. Let's print this out. You can see the output is yx. What's happening here is first it prints out the character y, not the value of y, just the character y, because it's in double quotes. So first it prints out this character y, and then it prints out this character x. And since it's printing them inside just one line, that's why y and x gets printed together. Now, what do I do if I want to add a space between them? Let's take another example. I type hello here, and I write world here. If I print this, I get hello world here together. I want to add a space in between them. What do I do? All right. So if I want to add a space between hello and
You
world,
make a space between hello and you make a space and the ending of the first quote.
Your voice is cutting out very rapidly. Can you repeat what you said? Okay, never mind. So if I want to add a space here, I can just press a space here, and if I print this, I get hello space world. Similarly, I can also add a space here, and I print this, I get the same output, and I can use multiple addition function. I can add a space in between of them. If I print this, I get the same output, which is hello, and then a space, an empty space, and then world. Okay, did you all understand this?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. So Shreyansh, do you have any other questions? All right. Shreyansh had a question. What if we want to print the character x and the value of x inside the same print statement? Okay. So in that case, what we will do, first we'll print the character x, which is inside double quotes. And then we will, so we cannot add a string to a number. We can add two numbers, which we have already seen. We can also add two strings, which we also have seen. But we cannot add both of them together, because a number plus a string, that doesn't mean anything. which is why in this case we will have to convert the variable x into a string. So what we do here is we add, and here we use the string function, which is str and then double quotes and then x. So what's happening here, we take the value of x, which is 10, and then we convert that 10 into a string, which means we convert the 10 into a text. The 10 is no longer a number, it's a text. It's the 1 and 0, it's a text. Okay. Then we print this and we get x10 as our output. This x is because we have printed x here, and this 10 is because we have taken the value of x, converted it to a string, and then added it to this x. Okay, so x plus 10 is equal to x10, because this 10 is also a string here. Okay, so let's make this a little cleaner. Okay, instead of printing out the character x, I can print, let's say, if I want to define it in the print statement, I can write the value of x is colon and then a space. So which means that this will get printed first, and then the value of x will get printed. I run this, and as you can see, the value of x is 10. This is what gets printed. Okay, any questions up till this point?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let me just comment out all of this, and let's finally move on to dictionaries. So in dictionaries, you must have seen that, as I've already said, that there's a word and then there's a definition. So let's take a variable name of book, and then we type equal to. And for dictionary, we have to use round brackets. Not round bracket, we have to use curly brackets. Okay, so we use curly brackets, and then let's just take the example from the presentation. Okay, so first we have our key, the first key. We write the first key, and we will name it key 1, colon, and we will write what do we want to give the value of first key. Which is here. Okay, let's just take it as value 1. Then we will separate it with the comma, and then we'll declare our second key. We'll take key 2, and then we will write it here, value 2. And let's just take one last key. We take key 3 is equal to value 3. Okay, it says that I have an error here. Okay, I put equal to, right. It will be colon, it won't be an equal to sign. Okay, so what's happening here is that this is a key and this is a value of that key. Like in terms of dictionary, it will be like this is a word and this is the definition of that word. So although we have named this key 1 and we have named this as key 2, we have named this as key 3, this does not mean that this is the first key or this is the second key or this is the third key. All of the keys and all of these values in dictionary stay together. There's no hierarchy. There's no first key, there's no second key, and there's no last key. Like there's no ranking, there's no hierarchy. They all are at the same level, but we can access the definition using the names of those keys. Let's try it out. Let's first use the simplest statement, and we will print book. Print this out, and our entire dictionary gets printed. Now the trick we were using before, we will add a star here, and let's see what happens when we print this. You print this, as you can see, all the curly brackets have disappeared, all the quotation marks and the commas have also disappeared, but the definition or the value also have disappeared. So this is not really useful for us because the value is what's important in a dictionary. So let's see how we can access one value at a time. Let's say I have my variable book here. I will type square brackets, and inside the square bracket I can type the name of any key. I will type inside my quotation, I will type key _2, and then if I print this, what do you think will get printed?
Value 2.
value 2, you're absolutely correct. And yeah, value 2 gets printed using this print statement. And if I change this to key 3, no surprises to anybody, value 3 gets printed. All right. So this is how you access one value at a time of a dictionary. Dictionaries are very useful when you have a large amount of data and you do not want to categorize them in a hierarchy, or you don't want to give them an index value. Okay, so I will just comment this out first. Since we still have some time remaining, let us go back.
Siddharth, I have a question for you. Can we put integer value in values, in place of where you have written value 1 and value 2? Can we give integer value?
Okay, why not? Let's check it out. I will type 1 here and I will print out key 1. Let's see if this functions. Yep, the integer 1 gets printed out. So you're absolutely right. We can use an integer. And maybe let's see if we can use a float. Let's see if we can use, let's say 1.02. We print this and 1.02 does get printed. Let's see the other type of float we saw. We will take the same number, 2.55 E4. Okay, when we try to print this, we get the same output as before, 25500.0, which means that you can use anything for your value. It doesn't have to be a string. It can be a string or an integer or a float value or even a complex number for that matter. Okay, any other questions, Shreyansh? Okay, so since we saw how we can access one value at a time in a dictionary, and we also have some time left. So let's go back and see how we can access one element at a time of a list. Okay, so let us scroll back a little bit.
Could you just show them the use case of type of function also?
Yeah, I think I already showed them a couple of times.
Okay, then it's all right.
No, let's do it again. Okay, here I have a book. Instead of print, I will leave this all commented out. I will print the type of book. Okay, and when I execute this, the output is class dict. Here, dict here means dictionary, which means this variable book. The data type of this variable is a dictionary. That Python already, using from the syntax, Python already understands that it is a dictionary. All right. Now let's get back to list. We will go back to our program and we will just copy a list from here. Okay. Here we have a list. So there's one common rule in programming that's taught to everyone in the beginning, which is that counting always starts from 0. Like in English language or in any language, we start counting from 1. We go from 1, 2, 3, 4. But in programming, we always start counting from 0. It starts from 0, then 1, 2, 3, 4. Which means that this number 1, this is not the first element of this list. This is the 0th element because it's at the position of 0. This 2 is at the position of 1. This 3 is at the position of 2. Okay, let's see how this functions. If I print list 1 and inside square bracket I type 0, I will get the 0th element of this list, in which case this is the number 1. If I print this, you can see number 1 gets printed out. And let's see if I, instead of 0, if I type 4, what do you think will get printed out if I print the 4th element of this list?
Hello.
Yeah, you are absolutely right because this is 0th, first, second, third, and hello is the 4th element of this list. So we print this and we get hello as the output. Okay, so this was very easy. And what if we type 5th? What will happen? This 5th element is a list in itself. Okay, so we print this and we get an entire list, which is the 5th element printed. And how do we know that this actually is a list inside a list? We can go back to our type function. We use type here and then we can type here. So what's happening here is that it is taking the fifth element and it is checking the type of the fifth element of list 1. And then we print this and we get a list again, which means we are sure that this element, which is the fifth element, is a list inside of a list. Okay, let's remove the type function to see a little more problem. Okay, so I have a problem for you all. The morning session already, if you scroll through your chat of the group, you will find the solution in case you are unable to solve it. I want you all to print all of these elements, okay? There's one way to print all of this element is that we can just print the entire list. I will press run and the entire list gets printed. But what I want you to do is that I want to print the list one element at a time, which means I want you to print the 0th element first. And then in the next line, I want you to print list 1/1. So what happening here is that 1 gets printed in the first line, 2 gets printed in the second line. And if I add another line here, okay, if I write list 1 and in square brackets, I type 2. And then if I execute it, I write 1 in the first line, 2 in the second line, and 3 in the third line. So the question for all of you is that you have to print all of these elements, one after the other. Like the one will come in the first line, then the second line, then the third line, fourth line, fifth line. You have to print all these elements one after the other, but you have to, but you don't have to do it like this. Like you don't have to individually print each element. There you can use a trick for it. There are multiple ways you can solve this question, and there are multiple solutions to that in the WhatsApp chat also. In case you get stuck, only then see the solutions. But in case you don't, but I want you all to first try this. It will be an interest to those of you who know about looping. Very good. You can use loops to do that. But there is also another way to do this using only one line of code. Okay, let me just comment all of this out. Okay, so does anybody have any question? Let me just check this chat box again. Okay, there's no questions here. Okay, anybody have any question? You can ask me right now.
So can you please repeat like dictionary? I didn't understand very well it.
Okay, so let's go back to dictionary. Let's back here. Okay. So in a dictionary, I'll repeat it. Inside a dictionary, inside a normal English dictionary, there is a word, and then there's a definition of that word. Like there will be a complicated word, and then the dictionary will explain what that word is. Similarly, in Python, that word is replaced by a key. As you can see, there's a key here, like key 1, and the definition of that word is replaced by a value. Okay, so we have a value 2, we have a value 3, and for the first element, we have the value 2.55 into 10 to the power 4. Let's just take this back to where it was. Okay, so for to start a dictionary, first you declare a variable, which I have taken as book, and then I use curly braces. Okay, we have a curly brackets in the beginning and the end. So first we name our first key, which is key 1. You have to keep it inside quotes. Okay, you cannot use it like if I remove these quotes from here. This will give. If I try to execute this, you can see key 1 is not defined. It throws an error for me. So I have to keep this inside quotes, and then I type a colon. This colon, and after that colon, I will write the definition, which is the value of that key. So this is the value, and this is the key. Let's take an example for this. Let's say you come home after a long night. What do? You take your key and you open the lock of your house, okay? Which means that the key in your hand is allowing you to access your house. The key which you use to open the lock is your access to the house. Similarly, this key 1, is your access to value 1. You cannot access this value 1 directly in Python. You have to access it using the key. Just like you cannot open a door without a key, similarly, you cannot access the definition or the value without a key. And in this case, the key is key 1. Similarly, for value 2, you cannot access this value 2 without its key, and that key is key 2. Okay, so let's print the dictionary once again. If we print the entire dictionary, as you can see, the entire dictionary gets printed. But if I want to access, like the use of a key is to access its value, right? So let's see how it functions. Like if I enter first I enter square brackets, and then I name a key. If I type key 1 here, and then I print this, I will get value 1, which means that I have used the key 1, which is inside of the dictionary named book, and then I access the key. I take the key to access the value, which is value 1, and thus value 1 gets printed in my output. Okay, did you understand? Did you get it?